On college campuses all across America, we've seen that anti-Semitism reigns supreme. It's not something that's happening here and there. It's everywhere. It's not something that's random. It has been fortified. It has been nurtured. It has progressed. It isn't the last college president or university president that has allowed this to build and grow. It has been university presidents. It has been those in the campus environment, those professors that have been left unchecked everywhere to allow this to build and allow this to happen. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you guys. This is William Jacobson, Cornell Law Professor, the mind behind legalinsurrection.com. And you follow these things. You cover these things over at Legal Insurrection. You have a series of organizations, whether it's the Legal Insurrection Foundation, things you've been doing regarding DEI, et cetera, sir. And we've talked many times about the law, but your experiences as a professor in a university like Cornell, and it's Cornell that sent out this statement yesterday. Cornell Hillel, it's a place where Jews gather and pray and socialize, is aware of a threatening statement that was directed toward the building at 104 West, which houses the university's kosher and multicultural dining hall, as well as more generally toward Jewish students, faculty, and staff. Cornell University administration has been made aware of this concerning language, and the Cornell Police Department is monitoring the situation. At this time, we advise students and staff to avoid the building out of an abundance of caution. The Jewish students and other students, William Jacobson, were told not to go to a building. Next, it's going to be don't leave your dorm room. This is not the first instance of something happening on the Cornell campus. You had a professor saying that the Hamas attack thrilled them. You have a graffiti on the ground at Cornell saying blank Israel and free Palestine. From the ground zero of Cornell, what's happening, sir?
Yeah, well, Cornell at a superficial level has very good Israel relations, very good Jewish student relations, but there's a very deep, nasty, vitriolic undercurrent on the campus. I don't know what the exact percentage of students it is, maybe 10%, maybe 15%, but they're the most vocal and the most active, and the same goes for the faculty. You've got probably 10%, maybe 15% of the faculty who are nonstop demonizing Israel. And so there's this undercurrent happening on campus that may not be visible to a lot of people who are not aware of it. And that's what you're seeing percolate up to the surface now that they feel emboldened with the Hamas attack on Israel and the fact that they may achieve their goal, or they think they're going to achieve their goal, which is the destruction of Israel. And they're not shy about that. They want Israel gone. And that's what's happening on campus, is that the 10 or 15% who are the most vocal have been emboldened.
The 10 or 15%, that's an anecdotal number.
Yes, it's not a survey, just my impression.
But that 10 or 15%, if we're going to use that number, and let's hedge towards the 15, and I think we're still low there. That 15% is nationwide. What we're seeing on college campuses, whether it's Harvard or University of Pennsylvania, whether it's Columbia, we're seeing things down in southern states, everywhere. There has been this unleashing of we should support Hamas, not the idea of we should support the people of Gaza, but an actual supporting of Hamas, an actual supporting of kill the Jews. Whether you're talking about people ripping down the signs of the missing or putting up their own postings and then losing their jobs. How has this been able to build on college campuses for so long?
Right. I mean, it's pretty shocking. At George Washington University, they projected onto the side of a building, "Glory to our martyrs." I mean, this sounds like jihadist talk. This sounds like somebody you'd expect to hear from, wrapped in black with an ISIS flag. That's what's on our campuses. That's how emboldened they are. Glory to our martyrs. So they completely identify with the butchers who tortured, raped, and mutilated people in Israel. So how did it happen? It happened over time. It happened with an ongoing, nonstop demonization of Israel through the so-called boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. Periodically, for a decade, there have been resolutions issued on college campuses to boycott Israel. Most of them fail, some of them pass, but that's not why they bring them. They bring them so the entire campus can spend 2 to 3 months talking about how evil Israel is. They don't do that for China. They don't do that for any other country that has massive rights. So that's how it happened. And the faculty, those vocal faculty, mostly in the humanities and social sciences, are extremely out there. They're leading this. They're engaged with it. It's their academic life is to be anti-Israel activists. So this has been percolating for a long time.
Let's get back to a little bit of something from Cornell, talking to William Jacobson, Cornell Law Professor, the mind behind legalinsurrection.com. These are some of the statements that were made supposedly at Cornell. If I see another Jew on campus, if I see a pig male Jew, I will stab you. And I don't think I could say the rest on radio or even in video. Nowhere is safe. Your synagogues will become graveyards. Never mind what they'll do to the women. The children will be beheaded, and then glory to Allah. I read those things and I say to myself, man, if you want to make a group of people look bad, that's exactly the kind of post you would put out. And then you see the amount of people protesting, saying those things in public, on camera, across America. Have the universities started, after now 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks since this attack in Israel that murdered 1,400 from the Hamas barbarians, have they started realizing, hey, maybe we've got a problem here?
I don't think they have. I don't think they have. And let me say about those posts, those were not on a Cornell forum. They are legitimate posts, meaning they actually happened at a place that's frequented by students on the internet. And we don't know who did it. And you know me, we're always very evidence-based. I can't point the finger at a particular person. We know those were made. We just don't know who did it or for what purpose or how serious they are. So I think that's background. We can't say a Cornell student posted that or a Cornell professor posted that. We just don't know. But that being said, it is consistent with the sort of verbiage you hear on a lot of campuses. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What does that mean? That means the destruction of Israel. What does the destruction of Israel mean? We know what it means because Hamas just showed us what it means. It means genocide. Intifada, intifada. What was the intifada? The intifada was a suicide bombing campaign by Palestinians that killed over 1,000 Israelis over a decade ago. I think it was almost 20 years ago. So these are calls for violence on campus that I've never seen for any other cause or any other cause that's so tolerated. We all believe in free speech. That's fine. But these are gross acts of intimidation. I mean, can you imagine how a university would react if students were marching, protesting in favor of lynching blacks? Okay, wouldn't be tolerated for a second. But you have people, and it shouldn't be. But you have people marching and saying almost precisely the same thing with regard to Jews, and the university is, oh well, it's just kids will be kids.
But I haven't heard them say that. What I have heard them say is make a very interesting argument about free speech. Talking to William Jacobson, Cornell Law Professor, the mind behind legalinsurrection.com. We're not discussing free speech. We aren't having a conversation about whether the students can support, can say free Palestine or even chant genocide. We're saying, why is there no response? That's the question we're asking universities. Why is there no strong response to, listen, you did this. Do you understand how disgusting this is and how absolutely immoral it is? And we should be questioning what kind of students you are. Why can't you say that?
I mean, these universities, which would ruin your life if you did a so-called microaggression, okay? Or ruin your life if you misgendered somebody by accident, or ruin your life if you said, well, men are men and women are women. Those same universities don't do much of anything for this. So it's a question of equal application. If you want a completely free speech campus, you can have it. But it can't be free speech just for the Israel haters and not free speech for everybody else.
So let me share this with you right here. This was a headline over at the New York Post. The Apollo CEO Mark Rowan, this was Charles Gasparino reporting, hits back at UPenn leadership after anti-Semitism on campus. And this goes to a lot of different CEOs and business professionals who have contributed millions of dollars to universities, whether it's John Hudson to the University of Pennsylvania, or it was Leon Cooperman to Columbia, saying no more. We're not giving to you anymore. Has this happened at Cornell, where you are a professor? And is this a trend that can take hold?
I don't know if it's happened in Cornell. Certainly, there's been no public announcements that I've seen, like you've seen at UPenn and a couple of other schools, Columbia. So I don't know. I'm not in the loop of the multi-million-dollar donor conversations with Cornell. So I don't know. Cornell, I think it's kind of interesting that no such movement has been created at Cornell that you've seen on other campuses. And will it take hold? I don't know. I'm not real optimistic about that. Universities are extremely adept at manipulating donors and getting donors to continue to contribute. Maybe there'll be a lull for a year, but I don't think it's going to have any long-term impact because universities know how to manipulate it.
So if that's the case, and we've discussed this before, where the university will spin it and say, we're trying to do better. Come share with us how we can be better. And don't forget to give. The more you give, the more access that you get. That's what you're talking about with the manipulation. But has there been amongst a professor set, whether it's Cornell, have you heard from others, how do you fix the Jew hating problem on campus? Because we can call it the anti-Semitism problem, but it is what it is. And has there been any conversations growing of that?
Not that I know of, but in fairness, I don't have a lot of communications with a lot of other professors because I am, their sore thumb. I am the conservative professor on campus. So not like I huddle with a lot of professors. I know there are some who are concerned about it, but I'm not aware of conversations. And, to your point, why is this Jew hatred rather than just Israel hatred? If this was any other group that liberated its ancestral homeland, if any other place that the indigenous people had taken back their land, other than Jews doing it in Israel, it would be celebrated. If indigenous Americans, Native Americans did it, Cornell now has the land acknowledgement statement that has to be read at the start of every event. What they celebrate that? Why don't they celebrate Jews reclaiming their land from the people who invaded it centuries later, in fact, millennia later? And why isn't that celebrated? We know why it's not celebrated, because they're Jews doing it in a Muslim region.
Now, this was I believe you sent a letter to your university. I believe it is. You posted that letter over at your site, legalinsurrection.com, and it had the headline right here, my call to action for the Cornell Board of Trustees. And you write, the toxic campus culture in which a professor to the cheers of students was exhilarated by the Hamas attack on Israel cannot be cured by the current administration, which has contributed to the failure through a DEI balkanization of the campus. The entire campus DEI program and agenda needs to be revisited, reworked, or removed. Now, if you ask me, sir, the answer is removed.
Yeah, I'm kind of regretting giving them those choices.
Yeah,
I think it needs to be removed.
But in 60 seconds, does what we're seeing about the bigotry on campus have that much to do with DEI, which is more of a new phenomenon in terms of publicly?
Yes, it does, because it's new for people who aren't, and there's no reason they should be, paying attention to campuses. But this is, again, a decade or more in the making. When you look back at the history of the boycott resolutions brought against Israel, it's always coalitions of student groups of color, so-called of color, versus white Israel. This has been a consistent theme for at least a decade, including at Cornell. When they bring forth the motion for boycotting Israel, they do it with 10 or 15 student groups of color. So the racialization of the campuses has been a key aspect of the demonization of Israel and of Jews on campuses.
And we're going to continue that conversation. William Jacobson, Cornell Law Professor, I appreciate you being here. I'm Tony Katz. Now, I had to let my radio audience go right there. That is a remarkable thing to note. And it is true that in the case of Israel, which is not per se a white nation, the perception amongst the progressive left, the socialists here, is to engage it in that way. So therefore they can put together the oppressed oppressor nomenclature, that Marxism that they know and love. And that's what you're addressing in this piece to them.
That's right.
That is William Jacobson, Cornell Law Professor, legalinsurrection.com. I appreciate you being with us. We're going to talk more in the future. And I can't thank you guys enough for being here as well. And my thanks to the sponsor, Americans for Prosperity, americansforprosperity.org, economic liberty and free speech. Let me do this right here. And I do love doing it. Check out a chapter near you. They're in your state. Go check them out. Go learn what they're doing. Go be part of something cool. And I will catch you next time, guys. Take care. All right, we're done. Yes. Oh, we should be. Oh, I thought we were done. I forgot to end it. Sorry, guys.